So this is the December 18th meeting of the Development Review Board. The Development Review Board, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. This means that we take clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. Application materials and written testimony is posted to the town website as received. Hearings may be continued at the board's discretion if material important documents are received after the submission deadline. In the event our decision is appealed to the environmental court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and decisions of the board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision by the board. So I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we're on the record, we're going to ask you to affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So would the applicants and anyone wishing to speak to an application this evening, please affirm the following. That's you guys and anybody on Zoom. Okay. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Please say I do.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That is 4 votes out of 7. We do have a full board tonight. I'm going to appoint Keith Maxwell. He's our alternate, and he's gonna sit in for Tim tonight. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before the board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, and any other town department will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. So can I have we want to approve the minutes of the last meeting, which was
November 20th.
November 20th? Okay.
I move that we approve the minutes of the November 20 meeting.
Who wants a second?
I'll second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Terrific. Let's see. Confirmation, Brian, has the meeting been properly warned?
Yes, it has.
Okay. Anyone have a conflict of interest or ex parte communication in regards to these 2 applications? Oh, terrific. All right. Then let's get going. Thank you very much. So the first application is 2024-130 Snowden LLC for Security Pacific Holding Center Service District. Is that you guys?
That's
Have a
me.
seat.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
to see you. It's been a few months since we were here last,
And
and
just give me your name and.
Steve Wilson with Bowler Engineering on behalf of the applicant.
Okay,
So just to refresh our memory from once we last left you, just get your bearings on the site. There's Fast Eddie's Ice Cream, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, Putney Road through here, Chickering Drive. So this is the parcel we're looking at for our valet service center. So based on our last time we were in front of you and feedback from the board and working with the staff on compliance with the regulations, we have, the project has evolved quite a bit. I can start with the building first, so to meet the various bulk requirements of the project, we really will have, as we were just talking about, this will be a unicorn of a Valvoline building. It's 2 stories with a 32-foot ridge height. Obviously, the oil change services will occur on the first floor. The second floor will be available for kind of a back of house office space for Valvoline as they see fit. We also have this kind of this ornamental architectural detail here that sits proud of the building. If you recall, I'll flip to the site here real quick. We had a couple setbacks to look at to try to achieve. Overhead doors needed to be 120 feet from the road, but the building itself could be no further than 100 feet from the road. So we split the uprights, and we have the front of our building, that bump out I just showed you is 100 feet from the road, and the rest of the building is pushed back to 120 feet. So we met those bulk requirements, and including the height requirements with the building. So this will be, to say the least, a very unique oil change facility. I can't recall if I've ever done one of these or Valvoline with kind of a second floor office attached to it. So it will be a very unique building. The rest of the site, and the other part that helped us achieve kind of that, the frontage along the street, we have subdivided this larger parcel, and we now have a new parcel line through here, right through the center there, so that we meet the setback requirements. So this is a future development parcel. It's going to remain as green space for now. We've already planned. I can't really see another driveway possible this close with one here. So we're thinking that access to this parcel would likely be achieved through here, and who knows, maybe it could be worked out where these connect. You have almost a service drive there parallel the street, which would be pretty efficient as well. But that's down the road. That's when this parcel ever gets developed. So we share the driveway with the adjoining Fast Eddies, and basically you're gonna you come in around the back, 3 service bays, 3 lanes. You pull in, you stay in your car with Valvoline, you don't get out. Service is done, and you're able to leave. So it's basically, you have this clockwise circulation around the property with parking spaces along here, including an accessible space, and then parking along the back with our dumpster corral along the back as well. I know there's some staff comments. We fully expect this, with route, the road being rebuilt in the future. There's gonna be sidewalks along there. We've kind of already taken the first step to bring it to a certain point. I don't think the applicant has a problem making a condition that, when this does get done, he can finish this connection to that sidewalk so it would link to the street. That's pretty, that doesn't seem to be a problem. I guess in terms of, just wanted to touch on some of the other agencies we've already been coordinating with, so you're aware. I talked to Brian McAvoy at V-Trans today. He expects to finish his review of the application this week, doesn't have any more comments. He's bumping it up to his boss. We received will serve letters from the town on water and sewer. We made application to the state on water and sewer as well. Those applications are in for review. So we're pretty well progressed, we think, on all fronts. Utilities, we included a full design package with our last submission, demolition plan, grading and drainage plan, lighting plan, landscape plan, all the full set of permit drawings. So I guess we're here to answer any other questions you may have about the project.
Catherine? Catherine, go ahead.
We saw absolutely nothing of what he was talking about. His back is to the camera, could not see what he was pointing out to, and I'm sure that whoever watched this on BCTV later won't be able to see it either.
You say all that again?
So, people on Zoom and the people that they're recording for this probably can't see what you're pointing to.
Okay.
Or even, Catherine, did you have trouble hearing?
No, I heard it.
Okay, good. Well, that's one sense working.
Could you just tilt the board a little bit
Which way?
more towards the camera?
The camera's over there.
The camera woman will give you a little bit of feedback. Can the board see it okay now? Okay, that's great.
Yes,
Is this gonna require a state stormwater permit?
It will. Yep. Absolutely.
so that'll be a condition.
Absolutely. We wouldn't process that till we get a little bit closer to construction, but yes, it will require a state stormwater permit.
Okay. Does the board have any questions? Go ahead.
I do. You said you went up to 32 feet. I might be missing something, and you said that was unique and maybe unnecessary. And I mean, from my understanding, you're.
Oh, I didn't say it was unnecessary. I said, no, it's absolutely necessary to comply with zoning.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I misspoke, but
Yeah.
I may be missing a part of the regs, but the height requirement is 24 feet minimum. So am I missing something about why you felt you had to go up to 32, or?
I think it's 24 feet. You have to have an average height of the building. And then also, no, I should back up. We originally had a building that height, and it was creating a space that was sorta could be used.
Oh,
So Beverly just made the decision, well, if I'm going that high, I might as well just add a few more feet to the building, and then I get a real space to use for office. That was the reason for that height.
doesn't affect my decision. One
No,
way or the
it
other.
just, yeah, it now made it use, what was sort of space was now actually real office space.
Anybody else have any questions?
Just, I mean, from my experience, not really a question, just a note from my experience that state stormwater permits can take some time to get. So you might.
Oh, I'm not gonna leave it to right before construction. It'll
Okay,
be
that's what
somewhere
I just,
between now and,
just a heads up. That's all.
When do you think construction may start?
I'm gonna say,
As soon as I get a building permit, ASAP, tomorrow morning?
it'll be pretty quick.
Yes?
Nor sometimes there's a need for minor revisions to site plans to meet the needs for AOT,
Yeah.
for access, also sometimes for stormwater. Rather than have them come back.
Make a condition?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
Anybody else on the board? No? Anybody in the audience here? Have any questions? Like to say anything? Okay. All right, so let's go for a vote on application 2024-130
The condition.
with the two conditions. We're going to approve 2024-130 with the condition of the stormwater permit.
And it's, Brian, that we want to put in that they can change the site plan with the town's approval.
With Brian, the zoning administrator's approval.
So just to list off, the first is ZA review and approval of minor site plan to meet the needs of V-Trans for access and stormwater and also landscaping sometimes. That they have to get a stormwater permit and that they will build a connection to the public sidewalk in future, should a public sidewalk in
Right,
fact
the
be built.
sidewalk. Very good. No need to build it now, it'll just be ripped up.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's have,
So
Can I
I'll
have
motion we approve the application with the two provisions that we discussed.
okay, second?
I'll second it.
All right, let's go. Catherine? Catherine, do you approve?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Yes.
Tom?
Approved.
Allison? Nora? Yes,
And I'll approve.
thank you.
Yes.
All right, you got it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good job at threading the needle there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, and our next is, let's see, on this one, 2024-145, Emily and Kaur, right? So it's your turn.
I'm here online.
Oh, all right, I thought you guys were.
neighbors.
No, you're not even here to talk.
Okay, you're not here? You're obviously not here.
Emily Murphy Kaur and my husband Harmeet Singh. We had an unavoidable conflict out of town, so we talked to Brian and said we'd have to join virtually.
All right. So, there is quite a lot to your application.
Did they take that out?
Yeah, you took the oath, right?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody else there speaking?
My husband also took the oath if he decides to speak.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there's quite a lot of pieces to this application, and I want to handle it in a particular way, a little different than how we usually handle it. So first of all, I just want to say, kind of as a thing, I do not want this meeting to go past 9 o'clock. So if it looks like it's going that far and we have lots more questions to go, we probably won't vote tonight. I expect us, and we'll continue it to the next meeting. I expect we'll go into deliberative session about this. And instead of our usual kind of way that we work is we let the board ask questions first. After you make your statement about what your project is. But in this case, I'd like the interested parties or abutters, if they want to make a statement, they can do that, and then they don't have to stay so late. As the board and we consider our questions, I think I'd like for you to ask questions first about the physical aspects of the site and the project. And then as we cover that, next, go on to the operational aspects of what they're proposing, and then we can go into the change of use questions, so that they're not getting peppered with all different kinds of questions, which can feel a little difficult. Okay, so Emily, tell us about your project.
Do you want me to start in that fashion too, the physical, operational, or can I just?
If you'd like, that'd be fine.
Okay, so I can share a little bit just background. So my husband and I operate a retreat center in West Brattleboro, which is designated as an inn, and is on 241 Quails Hill Road. We've been in operation since 2018, which we came before the board at the DRB at that point. And we are proposing a few different things, as you saw in our application, as we've kind of established ourselves here in town and realized our true mission, which is to promote the practices of yoga, meditation, and traditional Indian medicine. We've also realized a few things, one being, which is our first proposal, is that some of our programming, especially the Indian medicine programming, when we think about Indian medicine, there are a variety of different treatment practices, some of which span longer than 14 days, where people would be staying on site. And we, in that vein, we know that the inn designation does not accommodate stays longer than 14 days. And we started to think a little bit, both of us, about what is our real base, because we're classified as an inn because there's no designation by the town as a retreat center or ashram, which is really what we are. It was either become an inn, a bed and breakfast, or like a motel hotel, none of which really truly speaks to our mission. And so we had started to talk to Brian about becoming a religious facility, not because we have any denomination that we're trying to promote, because our underlying practices are spiritual in nature. We start and end all of our classes and treatments with chanting, and people in general are coming to connect with themselves, which is an act of spirituality. So our first proposal was to change our designated use to a religious facility, because that's what spiritual practices would fall under. The second, third, and fourth kind of things that entail or integrate into our proposal all kind of come together as one. We would like to build a new building on the property, and this new building would accommodate our family. Right now we live in an apartment inside of the retreat center, which has been beautiful, but is limiting to our family's kind of, one door away are the guests. So we would like to have a little more space for ourselves, and additionally for our programming, especially our yoga practices, our yoga studio space is very small. So if people are doing, let's say, a practice that requires a lot of props, there's no room for that. We have to really limit what we can do. So what we wanted to do was build a new building that would both accommodate our yoga and meditation, as well as our family, which is growing. So in order to propose that new building, which we are proposing on the downward slope of our property so that it would be less visible to the whole neighborhood, we are requesting a footprint lot so that it can accommodate that building, and a driveway that would then, allow us to access the building. And since the building would facilitate some yoga classes, would facilitate a fire truck to get down there, because we realize that, that will be something for a public use building that would be necessary. And those, we've separated them out as 4 components, but those 4 components make up our application.
Okay, so does anybody want to speak to this application?
Yes.
Okay, just stay up there, state your name and give us your statement.
My name is Nicole Lord, and I live at 472 Heinsberg, which is behind the property that they're proposing. We have a lot of concerns about this, especially since the letter that was sent to us says the impact would be that of a convention center. There is already a lot of traffic on Heinsberg Road, and to increase that would be impact our lives a lot. Also, I'm very concerned about being able to use their property, their new home, to be visible from ours, since we bought this home 2 years ago, and the reason why we bought it was for the privacy of our backyard. There's also a brook behind our yard, so we're very concerned about the environmental impacts of runoff and all of that, because it already, when it rains a lot, it already swells a lot and almost crests. So if we had the same rain as we did a couple of years ago and the runoff got changed because of the property, that could be a really big concern. So it's just, I'm also concerned about the lights, the noise, the more people around, not understanding the boundaries of the yards and whatnot, of having people inadvertently be in my backyard, like in the woods behind my backyard. It seems like all of the plans, which I appreciate, have been mostly directed towards their immediate neighborhood, of like keeping the peace of all that with no concern of us behind.
Okay.
So I'm a little concerned about that. I guess I can stop there. I have a lot of concerns, and I apologize. I'm like nervous.
Okay, that's what
I've never had to do this before, so it was like I got the letter. I'm like, oh my god.
So that's what this is for you to bring up your concerns.
Thank you. So we're worried about our property value. going down if we lose the privacy of our backyard because of the traffic already in front of the house. It's the main feature of the home, pretty much. So I guess I could stop there, but.
So, do we have a map that shows the abutters and how far away they are from?
The maps I had found, it's very difficult to
Okay.
see exactly
Okay.
how far it is from my,
Yeah, there we
yeah.
go. So which one, your,
So this, I believe,
is Heinsberg?
Yep.
Right, so it'll be one of these properties.
Yeah, my property, it's like we're at the point. However, even though that is our property, we would still, it affects us.
Okay.
Our vision and our privacy with all of the stuff on the side.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
To speak to the stormwater concerns,
Yes.
Quails Hill was originally approved. It had a stormwater system that was kind of a gray system, so it was going to be culverts underground, catch basins, and retention pond. And for reasons that aren't clear, Act 250 approved developing the site where the retention pond was. The stormwater system was never built out as it was supposed to, and they do not have a permit. So the town has worked with the landowners there with mixed success to do a green stormwater system. And for this particular parcel, that means that most of the parcel is preserved from development or even tree cutting. And that's an easement enjoyed by the town, which is pretty much all the land next to you, as well as a strip above you. The idea of that is runoff, even with more development, will sheet flow onto the forest soils and be absorbed by them. So you won't have that really spiky increase in water when we have really huge rain events. And it also helps treat the nutrients in the soil. Then the second thing, they're improving the special flood hazard area maps, and they're extending to smaller streams. So a portion of your property will probably be mapped into that. So if you want, I could give.
So that
show
we
you
would end
that.
up being in flood zone?
Not
or-
because of this, just because they're
Okay.
improving the mappings. And I can just give you a picture. I don't think it has any impact on your
Okay.
house, but.
Yeah,
just
the
for-
land is wet already.
Exactly, yeah.
We already have a lot of stuff to deal with that. So the idea of having more, it would be, is kind of terrifying, to be
Yeah,
honest.
so the point of the easement is to give enough width of forest to absorb waters without excessive runoff, so.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so you can stay or leave, your choice.
I'm gonna stay for a minute. I'd like to hear my neighbor.
Okay. So.
Is this, sorry, I know from being on the school board in town, is this, do I respond, or is this just an open forum and I kind of respond later, or how does it work? I don't know if there's a back and forth.
You don't need to respond
Oh, okay.
unless you want to make a statement, you can, but there's no need for you to respond.
I can, I mean, she's a neighbor of ours, so I'm fine also responding. I mean, as far as Brian already covered the stormwater, so I won't go there, but I can speak to the traffic, any noise, and the visibility. So currently, the visibility, since it's on our currently cleared lot, if our house is not visible, this will not be visible.
Okay.
You know, like there's no more clearing as far as the footprint of the house is concerned. And we have spoken to our neighbors on Quails Hill because of, let's say potential screening for the driveway, or, people who would be directly impacted if there was going to be a visibility concern. Most of our neighbors have been very happy because there's no sound, because people meditating and yogaing, they don't really have a sound. So I think they've been very happy about that. And because you're further along on Heinsberg, unless somebody missed our entrance, there would be no additional traffic, because they usually come from Greenleaf onto Quails Hill. Additionally, we're not proposing an expansion, so, it would be no more traffic than we currently have. So if it's not currently an issue, then I don't predict it to be an issue in that sense.
My concern is I know that you guys have
Go
that
up to the
piece of,
microphone.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I know you guys have that piece of land that's also next to our neighbors, the other two neighbors that we have. So I was concerned about that becoming a driveway and an access point to either your home or your center. And then that would really, and if that was the case, that would really impact the traffic that we already have so much of. So that's mainly my concern, is that little piece being developed from that way.
Yeah, this is a driveway off of Quails Hill.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we wouldn't be accessing, there's wetlands and there's additional, as Brian said, stormwater, and we're not interfering with, like, there's a Z shape in our property, we're just currently working with the Quails Hill.
Okay.
So there's no driveway or additional traffic for you.
Okay, great. That piece was like what was concerning me the most, and the visibility and loss of privacy of ours is real. Those are the two things that are like really what we were super concerned about. So I appreciate you addressing that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Sure.
Okay, board. So if you have questions about the physical piece of property in the site plan, this would be a good time to start asking those questions.
I have a question, if you could clarify, so you said there are 4 principal things. I just wanna make sure I have them. The first one would be the designation that we're gonna talk about later. The second is the new building. The third is that the lot division. Yeah. And the fourth you mentioned, is that an access road or for fire safety or other uses? Okay, good, I just wanted to make sure that I got them all.
Okay, I do have a question. In the application, it refers to a tiny home and an Airstream RV dwelling, and I don't see that on the site plan.
That's
So
what
we
want
do-
on the application.
Can you talk to that?
Sorry, I couldn't hear Brian.
I said that's in the warning, not the application, I think.
Yeah. Is there an Airstream and a tiny home on this property?
We do have an Airstream for our personal use, which I was actually also, one of our neighbors was, did call us about the Airstream, and we didn't put in the application because we're selling it this spring, so I didn't know that an Airstream had to be like kind of approved, or people having an RV, kind of like a car, but it is parked in front, so that could be something that I guess temporarily is approved until we sell it in about April, which is what we're planning. But we have had a tiny home, which we're taxed on. And, the tiny home is off to the, let's say, southwestern side of the building. And it's a mobile home, so it's not, it's on a trailer.
Okay.
It could technically be moved anywhere, but,
So it is
we've
on
had
the
it.
site plan, you just didn't label it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't think that necessarily had to be approved, but if it
It
does,
doesn't
then,
have to be approved, we just like to know what we're looking at,
okay,
right?
wonderful.
Any other questions about the site plan?
I have what may be a minor question, and it could be a lack of understanding. You're creating additional parking,
We are.
and for the entirety of the facility, how much of the parking is on private property and how much is street or city parking?
There is no city parking.
Okay, so it's all on your property though?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So Brian explained to me what a footprint lot is, I did not know what that was. Does the rest of the board understand that?
I knew about it in the sense of like condominium or attached housing that
Right,
share walls. I didn't think of it in this way.
yeah. So the application talks about 2 lots. And I couldn't find a division on the site plan for the lot, and Brian explained it was a footprint lot, so maybe you can just enlighten the rest of them like you did for me earlier.
Sure. So footprint lots are lots that are directly under the building, and that can accommodate the sale of the building as a condominium. It can also accommodate the sale of the building as a fee simple building. In either case, the common lands can be governed by a homeownership association or a condo association. Or in simple cases like this, it could just be accommodated by putting easements over the larger parcel for things like sewer and water utilities and access, and also putting in place a maintenance agreement. And that would be if they were to be conveyed separately. In this case, that's not the intent. So the lot is 12 acres, so minimum lot size in this district is 3 acres, so the potential yield is 4 acres. So this is two of the 4 potential lots that could happen in theory. And there might be additional restrictions on subdivision in the Quails Hill subdivision. It's not something I've examined. But there will be a notation required on the Mylar saying that 2 of the 4 potential lots have been created and there's potential 2-lot yield. And that's just taken out of a provision from our conservation subdivision regulations. And so the purpose of this is both to give them better options for financing the new building, but it's also to avoid a really irregular subdivision, because having bizarrely shaped parcels just creates, it creates troubles further on. Square parcels are great parcels because they're easy to figure out where they are. So there was no real reason to make a hugely irregular parcel in this case when a footprint was an option.
So this just means that the footprint is underneath the new building.
Right.
Okay.
It's still
Kind of
memorial.
like what you do with like a PUD type of thing.
It could be a PUD, yep.
Yeah.
And it's memorialized the same way any other subdivision would be. You do a Mylar showing the lot, in this case, the footprint of the building. It would show any easements that are going to be created to serve the building.
Okay. All right, I did not see for the new building any septic, or well, or any of that stuff on the site plan. Can you explain where that's going and what you're doing with that?
So we've been working with Alan McBean to explore the septic design. So, and the water. We would do an easement to our current well. Our current well is a true artesian well, which gets about 50 gallons a minute and supplies our pond. So we know that there's enough water supply. It currently goes through our house, or our, the retreat center. And the recommendation from Alan was to continue that and then to dig a trench to the new building, rather than diverting it all the way around. So our current well is positioned like in the south, I would say the south side of the building, kind of close to that tiny house. For the septic system, the septic tank would be about, within 50 feet of the building on the northwest side. And the current septic field wouldn't be expanded, but we would be positioning this right next to the current leach field on that north side. Which is all, our property is a fairly sloped parcel. And so all of it provides kind of natural gravity fed. It would be aligned with the building in that way.
What is your current leach field that you have there? Is it a mound system? Is it an in-ground system? What?
It's a mound system, right?
It's a mound system.
It's a mound system.
Gravity, natural gravity fed.
Can you describe the use of the new building that you'd be constructing? And you mentioned, I think, it would be living quarters and
Yep, and a yoga space. So we imagine it to be the first floor would be an open space for yoga meditation practices. It would have to have a bathroom, obviously, down there for public use. And additionally, probably right now, my husband and I both work from like bedrooms or different places, so probably would have an office for us. And then on the second floor, we would have our family's home, so our family's residence, which we have a family of 3 plus 1 on the way, and an au pair, like a person who helps to support us.
Do you plan a kitchen in that space?
We would be on the second floor.
No, I mean on the first floor?
No,
No, okay.
there's a kitchen on that floor.
So you do your cooking in the other building?
No, the cooking, like in our
No,
second.
for your guests.
Yeah, sorry. The current space, which we have, which functions at a retreat center, has 2 kitchens that we would be, we already use one of them for the retreat. They're both very modest kitchens, so, we would expect probably to combine them eventually so that, more than one staff could move around. But
In the current building you have, can you describe that as it exists now? What it's classified as an inn, so I'm trying to understand are there rooms where people stay?
yes. So essentially we have like a 6,000 square foot space. It has 2 wings, so it's an L shape. And what that has is a main kitchen and dining room for the guests to eat in. And it has bedrooms for overnight stay and a small yoga space. And then additionally it has our studio residence.
What is the occupancy that you can get to on there? Like, how many people will it support?
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Oh, how many people? Like, what's the occupancy? Sorry.
Yeah, so we have, another board member. I think I just couldn't see her, sorry.
The camera is.
Yep. Oh yeah, she's spanning over.
Yeah, sorry.
So the current occupancy, so we have our family right now of 4 in what used to be an apartment that was rented separately. And then we have 7 bedrooms. I think we can go up to, with the inn, we can go up to 12, but we have 7 in current occupancy. Or on week, because we operate primarily on the weekends. So on the weekends, there are occupants in those rooms.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions about the site?
Is that including the building? Including the building?
Including building, yeah.
I'm not, I guess I have a question about the safety of the current building. Since it's an inn, it must be up to code in terms of fire escapes, or it's not fireproof, I assume, so there's no sprinkler system.
We had to, when we came in, there was fairly steep things we had to do at the beginning. We had to replace the septic, replace the roof, and put a whole house sprinkler system in. So those have been completed. In the new building, we did consult with the fire marshal, and we'd have to see what's needed, but his interpretation is that we wouldn't need a sprinkler system, but let's see as we get there.
More questions about the site? Catherine, do you have anything about the site?
Sorry, I keep trying no. No, not this time.
Okay.
I have a question for Brian. So of these 4, the 3 points that we're considering now, the building, the access road to the other building, and the subdivision, does any of that need to go before us, or could that have been approved by the town?
The footprint law could be done administratively. Everything else is major site plan approval, so it's before you. This is also a local Act 250 review, so you'll have to consider any impacts on municipal services, educational services, in conformance with the town plan. And I think that's all addressed in the memo and in the draft decision.
Okay, let's go on to, if we don't have any more questions about the site, any kind of operational questions that will make it more clear about what this is and what the new building's going to be doing and how many people and staff and all that sort of thing. Oh. All right, then I'll ask, can you talk about your staff and how many are there and how do they get there and when do they work and all that sort of thing?
So,
And what,
you know, at
and
the
what you
beginning,
intend, I guess, when you get your new, what you intend to do when you have your new building? Like, how is it gonna grow?
yes. So at the beginning, I did everything. And then we started, as any business, you know, like having some supports. So currently what we have, the only people that really come during the weekdays are cleaning. You know, like we do have some cleaning supports that come, you know, maybe they work 8 hours or 16 hours on a busy week. So they come during the weekdays, and there once in a while might be like a maintenance person who might come to, let's say, fix some things. They do drive there because, you know, we're not on a bus route or anything, so all of our staff needs to drive. But during the weekdays, the parking lot, aside from our 3 cars, is empty. So there's not really a need for any additional parking. On the weekends, we have two, they don't work at the same time, but 2 hospitality people. So these people would be there to greet a guest or to support in the kitchen. So they might be helping with dinner or, you know, getting a guest a pillow, you know, and it really depends. We don't have any additional teachers at this time, but we do offer massage. So that's been something that we have offered, I think, pretty much since the beginning, maybe since 2019. And most massage therapists don't work at the same time, but we do contract a few different massage therapists, and they all do drive. So there are currently 3. They only have 2 cars because 2 of them come together. But we did put in the application that, you know, with our current parking, you know, if we have a variety of staff there, let's say a maintenance guy comes and we have a hospitality person and a massage therapist or 2, and then our cars, it's kind of like, you know, we're using the current parking lot. We don't park on the street, but we are very strategic in our parking because it's a modest parking lot. We try to hope that guests carpool when they can. If they, like, let's say, are coming, a same group is coming from Boston, the same yoga studio will request that. But oftentimes guests don't know each other, so it's completely inappropriate. You know, like, so that would be our staff. I don't predict at this moment, since we're not expanding guest rooms or anything like that, you know, I don't predict there being a lot more staff. There could be like a yoga teacher maybe that we hire if we were kind of transitioning off of that, or, you know, for mornings, but I don't predict a lot more staff being developed soon.
Okay.
So there's quite a number of, you're proposing quite a number of parking spots, it looks like.
She might not hear you.
25-ish.
I think there's 11. I think there's like 11 additional at the new building.
Is that for anticipating maybe more day clients?
We would love to have, you know, right now, well, I don't, like, we do have some locals who will come in to certain programs, let's say 3 to 4 locals who aren't staying on site. Who either come for a retreat or for therapies, let's say spa therapies. So that could be. I think some of the proposal is honestly to accommodate our current staff. I mean, if we have 4 or 5 of them in and we have 3 cars, which we originally had 2 cars, they would take up a good part of it. I mean, our current parking lot is, I'm saying, really strategically parked, meaning we have to repark with the number of people. So it's really to accommodate our current situation. If we did have day guests, there could be some offerings. We'd love to see offerings for local during the weekdays, like spa services especially, because they don't, oftentimes we're at capacity with our current guests. We can't accommodate lots of locals on the weekends.
Okay.
So.
Brian, did the 4-ish neighbors who are more up that dead end road than them get notice?
The adjacent parcels got notice, so there are people at the end of the road who did not. And then they also displayed big red P, which
on the curb?
I'm not sure where they posted it, but that gives an additional notice as well as the newspaper posting and the postings online.
Anybody?
Okay. I'm just a little confused. We have a number of site plans, and it looks like this building is this building, right?
That's right, yeah.
And it looks like this area here is what's being used as a parking lot there.
Exactly. And I
And
guess this is
we're adding a new parking lot here.
Can you,
But it looks as if that's being accessed from the neighbor's property.
No, I think it's a new driveway.
But it looks like it's off the boundary. See the dark lines here?
Yeah, right here, this line.
No, well, if you look at
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
If you look at this is a boundary line, and it looks to me as if, it looks like this is the boundary line.
I think you're right,
So
yes.
I can clarify.
Yeah.
Is this Michael? I'm trying to read your little tag.
Yes, this is Michael.
That's a great observation, very keen eye. It is over the boundary. It's definitely over the boundary. So we've been talking to the Petersons, which own that lot, and we've recently had it surveyed for their approval. They said they would sell it's at some points it's kind of it's not an exact square, so like a 20-foot kind of wide strip.
That's
So that
the
we
one
could-
it's kind of like the little parallelogram or whatever you want to call it. That's
Yeah, that's right.
that is from your property line out, that would incorporate
There is a
the.
graphic.
with the hash marks,
Right there.
Yep.
is that the word you're looking for?
I think this is.
Well, I see Nora has a kind of showing.
I have a different one, right? This one.
So this is the.
The reason we need
Yeah,
that
that's-
is because
that's-
it's
yeah,
the gradient
that's
of the
just
land. And so we requested that from them so that our driveway didn't have to have an extreme retaining wall. And so they agreed to sell us that, and the survey should be done very soon with the proper pins and everything. So we would be submitting that separately to the town, but when you talked to Brian about it, he had said that would be a separate process, because essentially it's a buying.
And what is the, like you say, from what I can see here, I can just barely make out contour lines, but it seems like that your driveway has quite a pitch to it, yes?
Michael, which sheet are you working off of? I can't tell from here.
Well, I'm going back and forth from one to the other, but if you're looking at
I'm looking at one that has a big circle around it.
grade,
Yeah.
it's called SETU Grading Concepts.
From Stevens. Yeah.
So, okay, so you do in fact have a 12% grade driveway there. Yeah?
We do have a fairly, that's one of the well, it's not a benefit to our build, but it's a benefit to the neighbors, because since the driveway and everything is fairly pitched, and then we have a flat parcel, it's been kind of almost like tiered gardens. The space the new building would be on is already flattened, but the driveway would have a pitch.
And anyways, having lived on in a development area that had a 12% grade, and having it on a corner, we actually, one of my neighbors' house caught on fire, and it basically burned down to the ground because the fire department couldn't get to it. Couldn't make it up the road in the winter. It was because of the pitch and the corner on it. Just has the fire department taken a look at your driveway proposal here?
So we did consult with the fire marshal. And part of our process was to figure out how the fire truck could, in fact, get down the driveway. The driveway, we had a few different proposals, and this current proposal has a 5-foot retaining wall at the back end of the driveway to accommodate less pitch. And that was kind of what we had come up with, and we're working currently with, or this driveway would be built in collaboration with Zach Grover and Conrad Fortier. And so we would definitely be talking to the fire marshal again to ensure that that can happen, because it would have to.
That, just to say, having a very steep driveway that goes, it takes a 90-degree turn is tough for anybody, let alone a fire truck.
This was the proposal, essentially the few proposals we worked with Stevens and Associates on this proposal, which you can see, I think it's kind of marked on the driveway gradient plan. And this was the one that seemed to accommodate the fire truck the best. We didn't see any, we didn't hear any feedback from anybody that it couldn't, but it is something that we could further look into.
Yeah, and getting another point.
Sorry, my husband wants to make a point too.
The gradient that you talked about, I believe the 12 degrees, or that, I believe it's not going to go all the way through that. There are 2 flat spots. So if it's all the way through, then your point is very valid, but there are 2 flat spots over there, and the gradient basically jumps between those 2 flat spots.
All right, no, just looking at it, I was just looking at the sharp corner between the 2 parking lots. That you can tell that's where you got quite a pitch. That's all.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue on that, or?
I would propose that, I'd like to see that the fire department take a close look at that to make sure that they feel it's
Safe,
yeah.
okay.
Well, just, it's fine in the summer, but.
Yes, I have a 12% with the
Yeah,
curb.
I know your driveway.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sure. So we did submit this to, or Steve did submit this to the fire department for comment, and we can definitely flag it for them and.
Yeah,
additional opportunity to comment.
it would be, I'd like to see that they're paying attention to the grade, just to.
And the curve.
Often they look at turnarounds and, hammerheads and all this other stuff so that they can maneuver the trucks when they're there, but grade can be quite important.
Yeah, there's some developments with even more grade that they felt they could handle, which.
Well, they maybe have
even
short trucks.
Surprising, yeah. But yes, we'll flag that for them.
Thank you.
So regarding the new driveway, what is the plan to become of the old driveway?
She probably can't hear you.
So regarding putting in the new driveway, what's the plan for the old driveway?
Currently, the driveway accesses the main parking lot. And so we don't have, in the current proposal, we don't have a plan for connecting the 2 driveways in any way, you'll see. I would love to eventually connect it so there didn't have to be 2 entrances, but it's not in our current scope.
I didn't understand that.
There would be 2 driveways right now. There wouldn't be a connection between.
So the driveway that's in this grade plan that I'm looking at, it looks like the current driveway kinda goes into what would be considered like a hammerhead turnaround for a fire department, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
Yes.
There is a driveway that goes into that now that, I see some lighter lines in it. On another map, I think I see.
All right, so I'm gonna say, you're proposing you're gonna have both driveways for a number of years, maybe?
At this, so like we have the current driveway with the parking lot.
Right.
We would love to have, and then we have a new proposal for a new driveway down to the new building with parking behind the building. We would love to have a connection between the new proposed driveway and that parking lot. If we can have that, then we don't need the second, there's no purpose for us to have our current driveway. We'd love to have one access point to that current parking and future parking. That's what we'd love, because it would just
But
streamline things.
For now, you're gonna be keeping the old driveway and putting in the new driveway? Is that right?
I think they're also saying that they're not sure that they're gonna connect through here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand that, because like,
Yeah.
it is, like, this is the current area, and
Yes.
it looks like it is
Yeah, but
connected.
Yeah,
it
it'll
goes
go
like-
through the,
This
you
out
would
here.
be able to drive through.
But then they need to keep this driveway and have this driveway to the new building,
Right.
right? So you'll have two openings onto Quail Hill.
We would like to have one, which is the current, like the new proposed driveway being one, and
And do
where
away
the
with,
current, where the current access is, continue the screening.
Right.
You know, we would not like that to be a driveway because it will be confusing for guests. So
Right.
an access point is better for us.
The thing that's confusing for me is that I'm looking at the image and it seems like that's what you're proposing. I mean, it looks like the existing driveway is connected to the new parking lot is connected to the new circled with an oval parking lot. And
But
the,
that's a future parking lot,
oh, and
where
that's,
the oval is.
and that's not part of this application?
I don't know.
Oh,
That is not that, so like you're seeing 3 parking lots. We worked with Stevens and Associates. They had proposed a lot of different structures, and this was remaining on that plan, but we don't want that parking lot. So we just circled it and said this is not
Oh.
full.
so the circled thing is not part of this application.
Oh.
We should treat that as
Okay.
lawn or garden.
Yep.
Okay.
so
That's
So
if
that
we-
I thought
Parking.
they're not connected, okay.
if we go way back to this one, that's like
This
current,
is not
Yeah.
a good thing.
That's
that feeds this one right at the corner of the property. But then they're gonna put another one in to feed back
The new
here,
Building, right.
to
Do
feed
we-
the back building, and with the possibility, Stephen said, hey, and we could feed them both off of
The one,
off of that one driveway and give you more spaces. Is what-
right, and not be confusing for guests and whatnot. Yes.
So again, this is an Act 250 project, so I suggested to them that they leave that on their site plan and bring it to Act 250 as potential future parking expansion. So should they do that in future, they would not have to do a whole new Act 250 review
Yeah,
of this.
I
thing.
think the problem is with the presentation of the site plan. It's hard to look at and hard to understand for us. So,
Are there any provisions in our regs about the number of driveways to a parcel? I know that that's not the end goal of the applicant, but you know, if it takes 5-10 years,
It's, yeah, our regulations prefer having one, but the board does have the opportunity to
okay.
approve more than one.
State roads are quite stingy about driveways.
As they should be.
We have specific standards for how close you can be to a intersection or two commercial parcels having access within a certain number of feet, but for residential driveways, it's much more lenient.
And Quails Hill is a very low traffic volume.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'd like to talk a little bit and get some questions about how your guests are getting from the inn part to the yoga studio center part, and is it handicapped accessible and like that? So can you talk about that, please?
in the current space or the proposed space, you
The
mean?
proposed space, so when you have your new building and your guests are staying in the other building, how do people get back and forth? And is there a walkway? Is it handicapped accessible, or are you planning for that? those, that access questions for the guests.
So, there would be a walkway built, like either a gravel or stone walkway, built from house to house. There is a gradient, so, the current access walkway wouldn't work because it's fairly steep. We could have a reroute of a walkway, like a little longer of a path, which people love walking paths anyways on our property because it's meditative. That could be handicap accessible. That could be the case. We have one current bedroom that's on the main floor, which is accessible. We've had people who've had differing abilities. That said, currently our first floor is up a few steps. So, if that's the people who've come, they've been able to get in those few steps and then adjust. But that is a reality of our current space.
And also the client will tell them when we move out, then we have a fairly level one as an entrance point.
Yeah, when we move out, when we move in, if we receive approval, when we move into our new space, there would be, more accessibility because we could have a different entrance. But right now, that's our home door.
We are planning to have 2 electric golf cart type vehicles as well, just to.
Oh yeah. So we have in the plan to have, because the parking does span a little bit of a hill, we planned to have 2 golf carts that would then be able to transport luggage or anything for somebody who couldn't necessarily bring it up the hill. So presumably if they weren't in a wheelchair, they could, or could lift themselves, they could come into the golf cart. But for people who are truly wheelchair bound, that would pose a challenge.
Any other questions about access, operational stuff? No? Okay.
I have one more question, sorry.
That's no problem.
The town's memo indicated that we might want to look at the lighting plan or and we could at least ask if you have plans that, since it's your house, you probably aren't gonna have it spotlit. But do you propose it be lighting for the new building that's on at night?
We don't have any.
What do you mean? Sorry.
She said, will there be lighting on overnight?
So most of the lighting on the walkway is downward facing solar lights. And we've been there for the last 6 years, 9:30 are lights out because people have to get up early in the morning for meditation. So for that very reason, we don't foresee, but definitely the walkways for safety reasons will be lit with the downward lighting. So nothing will be seen, I would say, more than 100 feet away. And because the gradient or the driveway goes down, barely anything will be seen from Quails Hill as well. And as far as I'm just going to complete the thought process over here. As far as the traffic lighting is concerned, we'll be providing the proper screening right off the bat. So none of because we've been asked in the past as well, none of the cars, headlights or anything would impact any of our neighbors, one way or the other. And if you can see on the maps, except the one neighbor, Peterson's, who we have discussed this at length. Other than that, there's no other neighbor who will have any visibility whatsoever from the headlights of the cars as well. So.
Okay. More questions? Operational or site-related questions? Okay, so we can go on to the next, the change of use and the religious facilities questions. Who wants to start with this? Ready?
Go ahead. Well, we're going from an inn to a religious facility.
Yes.
Is that, will you be, yeah, I don't know that it matters specifically to us, but I'm always interested, will you be going for a tax exempt status, or?
I mean, there could be components of the business that become tax exempt, but we're not necessarily doing that. We haven't considered that at the moment.
Okay. So
We
do
because
have some.
I understand because like religious or educational facilities could be tax exempt, but that's not the reasoning behind going for a religious affiliated zoning.
I guess I guess I'm a little confused about that, so I would question Brian. Does from about the 14-day thing, I guess that was the reasoning, because some of your clients might be there more than 14 days, and that was a limiting factor to that thus required it to be a religious facility. As that's what I kind of heard, and I'm awfully confused.
I think there was twofold. One is, we applied bed and breakfast and inn because that was the, designation at the beginning that seemed to do room and board, but we really function more as an ashram, which is all ashrams are classified as religious facilities, and our offerings also align with an ashram. And so my husband and I had always talked about, where will we be, what do we want to be designated as? An educational facility because we teach there, like an inn. At the beginning, we were working through our licensing and we were on Airbnb. That's so far from us now because we do not want to attract clients who aren't there for a more spiritual purpose. So we don't market in any of those ways, and we don't get those clients anymore, which is more true to our mission. But when it came up, because there wasn't another reason to change our town zoning, even if we decide to, do different things tax-wise, which we're not right now. Really, the limiting factor was this 14 days. We're like, treatments are going to be lasting longer. There will be clients on site for longer. So it made sense at this moment to say, look, we need to move into more of our true roots, which are, you can see on our website, more like an ashram. And so we approached Brian at that point to say, should we submit this as a package at this point? Because we don't also want to, you to continue seeing us popping up for all these different things that never, feels good. So we submitted the entire package as such.
So are you at all registered with the state of Vermont as this kind of entity?
We aren't registered with the state of Vermont. We're registered with the state of Vermont as a business.
Okay. How do you do your promotional marketing? You said that was a change that you made, and how do you advertise yourself? And
so at the beginning we were on Airbnb as we worked through all of our licensing, and we got our own website and additionally got our own booking platform, because obviously in order to book rooms, you need a way to book.
Right.
And at the beginning we were on a booking platform that was for inns and bed and breakfast. And I think it was about 2019 or 2020, right at COVID, is when we switched. We said, one, Airbnb was not attracting people who were expecting to do yoga and meditation, which also to honor the neighborhood expects us to be doing yoga and meditation. We don't allow alcohol, we're vegetarian, we want a peaceful environment. So we switched off of Airbnb, saying many other people can do that. And we switched our retreat platform to be much more like the Art of Living Institute or these ashrams, where you could only book retreats.
Okay.
And so we did that. And pretty much our promotional, we always said the bees will find the honey. You know, the right people will find us. And we've been very lucky. I think we have about 260 or 270 5-star Google reviews. So people have been very generous after they've come with commenting in order to help us attract like clients. So that's pretty much the main way. We do some organic social media posting and some social media advertisements, which have been very, very recent and very low budget.
Okay, all right.
I wonder if this could arguably be considered a school in some way or fashion. What do you think, Brian?
Schools aren't really lodging use, but,
Would the exhibition center allow lodging? The land use code that was proposed by staff, which is exhibition, convention, or conference structure. Is that?
propose that because it might have similar impacts
Yeah.
as far as visitation and, Inn is actually a very broad designation. It allows a lot of accessory uses. And except for the 14-day limitation, it would encompass what you're proposing quite easily. But is the 14-day limit unacceptable as it impacts your spiritual practice?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't know if you were directing that. So yes, I mean, the 14-day limitation will not work for a lot of our programming as we evolve, where people would be staying longer. Hence why we change it.
How long would you anticipate people staying? Like, is it 6 months or a month or how long can people?
Max. So many treatments last 21 days, and there could be up to 40. That is a typical, if you look up for traditional Indian medicine, those are typical cleanse protocols where people would be going through that. And I imagine too, as people do, we have more deeper meditation program, there's many people who want to take a longer retreat, where they kind of like come and it's called Seva, where they like give back by like gardening or whatnot, and then they enjoy the services. So we've had some young people that have done that, but we've limited the stays, but it's really great for us to have volunteers who take programming and stay longer, because that's how we'll thrive.
Okay.
Ron, I have a question. I mean, it seems that what we're discussing is to either create a new category of the ashram and set an example for other cities, other locales, or to try and, is there a waiver that the board can grant for greater than 14 days, or is that fixed by some other regulation? So I in my mind, I'm toying with essentially those two ideas, either a waiver or us, assuming we move forward, going with the ashram definition and creating a new category that's not a bed and breakfast, that's not an inn, that's not something else. And so they're creative and perhaps we're creative on their behalf.
Sure. So generally we want to keep as close to the existing classifications as we can.
Yep.
But, if it's impacting a spiritual practice or a religious practice, then that type of rigidity, that seems like it may impose an unreasonable burden on people's religious practices. And, certainly if you're imposing an unreasonable burden, then that becomes unconstitutional. And it's in violation of federal civil rights acts. So one way you could look at it is this 14-day limitation, a general provision of law and necessary for health and sanitation. And if you look at state law, what you see is that they allow lodging uses up to 30 days. And they make that distinction because after 30 days, people have rights of tenancy and because of residential use. So there are certain legal risks having extended stays beyond 30 days because at that point
You have to
people
evict.
chose not to leave, they would have legal rights to contest it and you might have to do an eviction.
However, can I ask, would that make any difference if they called this a religious facility? You'd still have this tenancy question after 30 days, wouldn't you?
To the best of my knowledge, it wouldn't. So you can make a religious accommodation without changing the use.
Right, okay.
I guess the other thing is like, you know, if we flip this around, we've not really changed our use. We've always been an ashram, but we fit into the in categories of, you know, to start our business. But if you look on our website and, you know, everything about, you know, our practices, there would be no confusing us between, like, you know, the Inn on Putney Road and Setu. It would be very clear that people are coming for spiritual purpose. So I just wanted to make note of that.
So let's give one example of this. As say, for example, if you're traveling to Brattleboro and it's a Thursday, and if you go to a website and say, I would like to just stay for the weekend, is it possible? So that's how things are restricted, that we're not trying to sell beds. There's a mission, and if the mission requires, and that's one of the reasons most of our guests who come here book way in advance, and their purpose is defined. There's no question about is alcohol served on site, because they know that that's the mission. So going the in route would actually take us back to some level.
And Brandon, can I ask, it's not a new category we're creating, like you were saying, there are other religious facilities in town, right, who, that's their
It's
use.
not an allowed use in that.
In this district.
In this district,
I see.
right.
Gotcha.
I don't think we have anything quite like this.
Is the fact that religious facility is not in the permitted or conditional uses for this district, is that a violation of the federal thing? Because if our zoning is saying religious facilities can't happen in this district by the land use code, then that seems to me like quite a discrimination or whatever. Should we update the planning to?
No, it's not. I mean, it's the planning commission can consider how accommodating they want to be of people's religious practices, and it seems anomalous that it's not a permitted or conditional use, because it is a permitted or conditional use in almost all residential zoning districts. But this is how it's written, so, but if a use is not listed in a district, you can also look and see if it's comparable to uses that are there. And that's why I warned it as being potentially an exhibition space, or, you know, because in Brattleboro, we weren't anticipating that we were going to have a 1 million square foot exhibition hall. We were anticipating that somebody would convert their barn into an event space for weddings, in that type of scale. So to me, it seemed like that could be a fit, and religious facility might have that similar type of impact.
And inn is no longer, maybe it was when they, presumably it was when they began, but inn is no longer on the rural district's list of uses.
It's still
conditional.
So we would.
Oh, sorry, it's at the end of
Yeah, it's
a term.
conditional,
Okay,
yeah.
I saw bed and breakfast or inn.
And again, you know, land use classifications, they're not intended to be a vigorous or exacting description of what's happening there. It's just a set of activities that could impact neighbors, and, you know, directs a kind of analysis for municipal boards. So certainly, if you were to continue describing them as an inn, there's absolutely no reason they would have to describe themselves as an inn.
It's just a label of where people stay and they get food, you know, kind of thing. It's not anything more than that. And
Yeah, it's a constellation of, you know, you convert a single family home, you're using it for lodging, you have food, you have other activities. You could have spas is one of the things that is listed. So different wellness activities are certainly part of that. But, you know, you have to consider this is spiritual, there's spiritual use here. So again, how can you accommodate that in a way that's not unreasonable burden on religious practice?
Right.
And, you know, when you decide whether a spiritual practice or a religious practice is a religious practice,
What's that line? Yeah. It's not a
why
line.
why not be liberal?
Right.
And so we would, in one scenario, we would grant an exemption allowing this religious building or whatever in this zoning district, but then they would have to change the use, that's separate, right? They would say our business is gonna become something else, not anymore, and that's something you guys would do separately.
You folks have to approve a change of use.
So we would, for this property.
So they're proposing a change of use to accommodate the spiritual center and their desired use. So it's a question of, is that actually necessary, or can you make an accommodation without that change?
So a second.
In Jordan, there can be unlimited uses on a parcel.
Yes.
According to our
Okay.
use regs. It doesn't use that word unlimited, but there can be a house, there can be, as long as they're permitted or conditional. You know, so there's a residence in their proposal, there's like a yoga or office space, there's an inn or a religious
A place
center.
where people stay.
Or like that Valvoline, instead of putting that abutment, whatever they called it, to stick forward to 100, they could have, like we were talking at the last meeting, put like
Office.
an office
A rental
much
place
closer
right
to this.
there. Yeah.
So in any case, the constellation of uses they're proposing does fit under the broad definition of inn.
Yeah.
But that definition includes a 14-day limit, which is limiting their protected spiritual practices.
And we could also give an exemption for that, 14-day?
I don't think we can.
If it's the minimum to accommodate their religious practice and not unreasonably burden it, I think you're obligated to do that.
Okay. So are there any more questions for our applicant, Emily?
Well, did you say that there will be a resident manager of the inn? I guess it's you guys, right?
Yeah, we live on site.
Yeah, and it's on site, not in the same building, but
Because they live
whatever,
there.
it's a stone's throw away. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so I make a motion that we go into deliberative session
Second.
at this time. Can I have a second?
You want to explain to them what it means? You want to explain to them what it means, or?
So deliberative session is when we go by ourselves and talk about what we want to do, basically. And so it excludes everyone but Brian and Stephen. It's not 9 o'clock yet.
8 o'clock.
And then they'll get a written notice.
If we vote tonight.
So you will find out tomorrow.
No, he breaks it up and then I go
Okay.
and sign it.
So not tomorrow, not tonight.
Probably after Christmas.
Okay, that's good.
So essentially the public meeting is closed
That's right.
and we would leave the meeting and then we would hear about this later.
Yes.
Any questions for us, ask them.
So all of our questions, nobody else has any further questions?
No.
No.
Do you have any last statements or anything?
Do you have any last statements?
We've been very happy. We've been here since 2018, and we have worked with the neighbors very closely. You haven't heard me much talking because I'm the one who teaches meditation, but Emily is the one who runs me. It's basically a women-powered business, so to speak, with my limited presence. So we are very generous for the town of Brattleboro and also our neighbors to have us here as well. As stated earlier, in was never our kind of like goal, but at that point of time, that's what we got. And many times, from a business point of view, it's not great, but from a mission point of view, we have to say no to people because they see us as in technically online, and when they call, we have to accept their call and kind of very respectfully kind of like also deny. So that's the kind of also like, play that we are going through for a while.
But Brian, didn't we cover just the fact that a property or use has a land use classification doesn't mean that then they have to advertise that on their website, that we've been classified as an inn by the town.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah,
No.
and I almost thought that I was hearing that from him, that they get people, a lot of people think they're an inn, and
Yeah, but neighbors do know. So many times when we talk to our neighbors, especially on the other side, they're like, yeah, you're running a hotel. And which then again, it's up to the burden is on us to explain it to them what it is. But at the same time, they're like, look at the paperwork, it's a hotel.
Well, that's
So-
the burden of being different, I think.
We can certainly draft a decision that notes whatever land use classification the board decides while accurately describing your mission and noting that this is the classification under our narrow system of classifications, just to acknowledge how you see yourself. But again, the board has to decide what classification fits.
Okay, we have a lot to talk
Yeah,
about.
thank you for lots of information and great site plan and everything, so I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you guys, and we do know that this is multiple level, and we appreciate your time and all your questions, and our neighbor for coming out if she's still there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Yes.
Oh, take a vote to go into deliberative session.
Move, we go into deliberative session.
Second.
Second.
All right, Kate? Aye.
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 Catherine? Is there anybody with you? Okay. We're going into deliberative session, Catherine.
Okay, I heard you. I didn't think you needed me to. Fine.
Unanimous.